Welcome back to OpenLine. We are talking about a new law that goes into effect starting July 1st. That is next week, folks, about hands-free driving. No more holding your cell phone, going through your music, sending a text, even though that's already illegal. All of that stuff you can be pulled over for and written a citation. So get ready to fork over that money if you decide to do this. I have quite the panel with me tonight to discuss this and help us all get on the same page about what is allowed and what is not allowed. We have Lieutenant Bill Miller with the Tennessee Highway Patrol, Arriale Tabson from Tennessee Highway Safety Office, and Dr. Roger Nagy from Tristar Skyline Medical Center. Thank you again for being with us tonight. We've got lots of calls. I have Jeff and Frank. Just hang where you are for just a second. I do want to touch on a point that we were all talking about during the commercial break. Distracted driving is a part of our lives these days. It has become commonplace. And Doctor, you were bringing up this really has to be a societal shift that we make.
I think so. I think we just have to get behind it. I mean, I remember as a kid growing up, we would be in the back of the station wagon on long car trips. No seatbelt, nothing else. And that was commonplace. And nowadays it's almost unheard of to think that people would be doing that. And there's, there's plenty of good reason for it. And, I think now that culture shift has to change. We've done it with seatbelts, and now seeing it with distracted driving. The other point that we were making is it's not just necessarily the phones or the text messages, it's just playing with the radio.
Oh, sure.
It's the cars themselves sometimes. There's a lot of technology in your car, and if you're not familiar with it, you may be not paying attention trying to get your lights to do something, and really, making sure that we're familiar with those things, and, do what Lieutenant Miller's been saying. When we're driving, we got to just pay attention to driving.
This weekend I was even looking at the technology my car offers, which I've had for a couple of years now. Just because I've had my phone, I haven't had to really dive into it. I thought, well, this is just as distracting as looking at my phone for those directions or picking up to answer a phone call. Where does that end? And what have you heard anything from automakers saying, okay, we know we're part of the problem?
I wish automakers would take more responsibility towards lessening the distraction inside the vehicles. I purposely bought the vehicle make and model that I have with the options that it has because it's the simplest to operate. I have a Ford F-150 XLT. Could have went with a higher package, but the higher package has all the more distractions on the dash, heated air-conditioned seats. There's so much stuff going on inside the vehicle that I really don't need, and I have seen firsthand what those distractions can cause when the vehicle's loaded up with a lot of these extra options.
Yes.
So we all want those bells and whistles, and it's for some people it's a status to have these bells and whistles and to have this certain type of vehicle, whatever. But you have a choice when you're buying as a consumer to make sure that vehicle, if you want technology, obviously we all want some type of technology in our vehicles, but make sure it has Bluetooth. And the majority of vehicles have that, but it's not a standard feature in all vehicles today. So until it is a standard feature, make sure that you do shop and you do get that option, because it's a tremendous tool, and it's going to be a tremendous tool that will help you with this law, because you can send a text, you can receive a text, but you have to verbally respond to the text, and you have to let the text be communicated to you through automated ways from your vehicle. So if automakers would take more of a responsible role, it'd be great.
Yeah, hopefully that push will come as well. Let's jump back to the phone lines. We have Jeff, who's been quite patient with us. Jeff, you're on the line. Do you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, I have a couple questions.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
First of all, what would be the fine for having your cell phone?
Okay.
Second of all, we use GPS all the time, right? Because I'm a service technician and we're driving around, we're trying to figure out where we're going.
Yeah.
We're going from point A to point B, and we're looking at our phones. We can have it mounted, of course. And then when you talk about technology in newer cars, we're talking about other vehicles that don't have newer technology. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Yeah, if you could buy a new car with all the beautiful technology, that's great. Yeah.
Okay.
So I just want your response. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go through those fines again. Everybody's interested in that because they want to know, if I get a ticket,
exactly,
what am I on the hook for?
Well, for your first and second offense, it is $50.
Okay.
For third offense, it's $100. If you are in a construction zone, for example, and there are workers present, that's $200.
Or a school zone.
Or a school zone. Yeah. Correct. Yes, that is exactly correct. So, those are your fines, and you cannot hold the phone with any part of your body, period. Now, if you have an older vehicle, or if you have a newer vehicle, and you still like the options that your phone gives you as far as how it verbally communicates the directions, street by street. You still can use your GPS in your car, but you have to pre-program your destination before you're driving, before the vehicle's in motion. The GPS coordinates or the phone can be given to you while the phone is placed in a standalone device or unit, like we talked about earlier, some type of device that suction cups to your windshield or to your dash or to your cup holder. And it cannot be visually obstructive to the driver. So it cannot interfere with your vision of the roadway in any kind of shape, form, or fashion. Let's see, do you have any other part to his question?
If you're driving a car that doesn't offer Bluetooth, doesn't have the new bells and whistles, what are the alternatives?
Well, again, you can have a wrist-mounted watch, a smartwatch type of device. You can have your earbuds or some type of earphones that strap onto your ear or ear pods that go into your ear, and that is totally acceptable. Just remember, though, if you are streaming the music, make sure that you keep that volume down low. So you need to be able to monitor traffic, hear traffic, and just for safety, you don't need to let the music that you're playing or whatever you may be having coming through your volume of your earbuds or earphones be a distraction in itself.
You still got to hear those sirens behind you.
You still have to. Yes, exactly.
Okay, so earbuds okay, Bluetooth okay. When it comes to, let's say he was a technician where he may say, okay, no, you're not going to that house, you're going to now go to this house. Does he need to pull over somewhere, redo his maps, and then hit the road again?
Correct. If if your caller is a technician and they go from say residence to residence, before they leave that residence, before they finish up that call, program in the new address, new coordinates to where they're going, and let the electronic device take them where they need to go. But it has to be mounted. They cannot hold it. No driving with one hand, with it down low by your lap, looking like
trying to be incognito about the whole thing. Like, I'm fine. I'm really not holding this thing down here.
You find when you try to be, I like to use that. That's something. Operation Incognito is something THSO has had a great experience with and great success with, but in education and for drivers. But when you try to be quote incognito and hide, you really are making yourself more noticeable because your actions are just simply less safe.
We're not being so secretive at all.
Not at all.
No. Ariel, you mentioned Operation Incognito, and that's where you guys have taken troopers out and different officers out and put them in the Greyhound bus so they can see down into the cars.
Yes, we've used a variety of different vehicles. We've used a marked THP bus with the logos all over it so that people could obviously see that we were law enforcement. We've used the the Gray Line buses, like you mentioned, and we recently used a local transit where we had like Nashville We Go Public Transit did our bus tour this time. So we've been experimenting with that to kind of keep people on their toes. But now with hands-free, if we choose to do our next operation, we may call it Operation Hands-Free and not even do the incognito, because now everybody is aware. You're supposed to have your phone down and heads up, focus on the road. So we just look forward to seeing that change.
You guys have a great website, and part of it will address the Hands-Free Tennessee campaign. What is that website so people can check out the particulars of this law?
Yes, please visit handsfreetn.com. That is where you can find the law in its entirety, the different aspects of the bill. You can look at statewide and county data, and we also have some social media graphics and digital flyers that are available that can be printed. A lot of teachers have been printing these flyers and creating them into posters so that they can educate their students and other staff as well. We also have them translated into Spanish so we can be able to reach those communities. So just go to the website, handsfreetn.com.
Great information there. Dr. Nagy, we were talking earlier and I asked you about what you see in the ER, and as I was thinking of that, I was thinking of people who commit the distracted driving. But there's the flip side of that, who are the innocent drivers, bystanders out there, who are the victims who come into your ER.
Absolutely, and in an example that Lieutenant Miller pointed out earlier, it can often be two distracted drivers, and happening, the worst things happening at the worst times. And so, I think it becomes, again, back to all of our responsibilities, whether it's a teen driver, and quite frankly, with the teen drivers, they haven't had that experience. They haven't built up those years of driving. And so, not that paying attention isn't important to everybody, because of course it is, but they don't have that muscle memory for driving.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we're seeing, you know, more of those accidents involving the kids just because they don't have the experience.
I know as a reporter I have interviewed families who have dealt with the effects of drunk driving, or people who have been a drunk driver and had to go tell their story as part of their community service. And just so often it is I wish I had never made this decision. If I could go back and just change this one decision, I would do anything to do that. But there's no take backs in this.
None whatsoever. 1 second can ruin the rest of your life or the life of someone else. 1 second or one bad decision can take your life or take the life of someone else. And that's a tragedy that many people are having to live with today, to know that they have made that selfish decision to drink and drive or drive impaired under alcohol or drugs, and they've taken the life of an innocent person. There are many people who relive that night, that instant daily, because they can't walk. They may be confined to a wheelchair. They may be paraplegic for the rest of their life, and it's just really sad.
It is.
It's extremely sad. It makes me, as far as law enforcement for the past 22 years, extremely angry when, you know, people make that decision in such a day and time where you have so many other alternatives. You know, to ride share, dial up an app and have a person come pick you up. You have a taxi. You have friends. You have family who will come pick you up. Just make smart choices, because that affects everyone, not just yourself.
And we have heard the message about drunk driving and drug driving so often, but distracted driving now falls into this category. The ramifications can be just as dangerous and as deadly as we have seen for years and decades now.
Well,
in some ways, so I was going to say, in some ways, distracted driving is even riskier and more dangerous than impaired driving, because when you think of impaired driving, you're taking a substance or consuming alcohol at a certain point in your day. You know, you're not necessarily dealing with it at AM, PM, and late in the night. But we deal with distracted driving 24/7. Every time you get in your vehicle, there's an opportunity to become distracted. So in some ways, it's more dangerous.
Absolutely. I want to get to the phone lines once again. We have, I do believe this is Alan on the line. Alan, are you with me?
I'm here.
Hi there. Go ahead.
Hey, I'm all for this hands-free. My daughter, she was a great driver, and then when they got the cell phones and all that stuff, she's a terrible driver. I can't even ride with her anymore. But what else is one thing that I don't that I'm concerned about? What about law enforcement? Are they included in this?
Yeah, we've answered that question a couple of times. Yeah.
Because where I live, you know, you drive by and they're always on the phone.
Yeah.
Law enforcement. You know, I mean, does that include them also?
It does. And
I'm kind of curious because, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Alan, we have answered this question, but we're going to do it again because obviously a lot of folks are concerned. I'm going to hang up so you can listen to your TV. When we get this question for a third time, this bugs a lot of people.
Well, and it ought to, and it should. We are not exempt from the law, period. Let me stress that to everyone who is watching and listening. We're not exempt. If we're in the performance of our duties, then whether fire, EMS, or electrical service operators, if they're in the performance of their duty, they can be on their phone while in the performance of their duties. Now, if I am driving, if I'm driving and I'm not on a call, then I cannot be on the phone talking to my wife and just chit-chatting. No, we cannot do that. Now, what people really should kind of understand, there are many circumstances where we have information coming across on the radio. And I'm not making excuses, because there are those officers who do abuse their cell phones, and that happens, and they will be dealt with by their departments. Again, we have policies with the Tennessee Highway Patrol that if a trooper violates that policy and he or she is involved in a crash or something significant happens, then he or she, if they're caught by their supervisor, they can be disciplined, whether it be a disciplinary write-up, a warning, days off, or even up to termination. So we do take it extremely serious. Even up to how we, what we refer to as CAD, computer automated dispatch. We have computers in our vehicles. Those computers, there are strict guidelines about how those computers have to be operated. So we cannot be searching and typing while we're driving. So we're not exempt as far as just being on our phone. We are exempt about being on our phone while we're driving if we're just going to be talking. So the law affects us just as does everyone else. So, but with that being said, there's a lot of times information that comes through your in-car radio as far as your police service radio from the dispatcher, or you may be monitoring a call that's going on and you're trying to get information from that dispatcher through the radio. At the same time, you could be on the phone trying to get additional information from somebody who's on the scene. If you're in the performance of your duties, the law clearly does exempt certain aspects of like law enforcement, fire, EMS, and so forth. But it's if an officer does abuse it, he or she will be dealt with by their department, I'm sure.
Very good. I'm glad you could answer that. We have to take another quick break. More of your questions and calls when we get back.